With ballots now in the hands of voters, there is some new polling in two of Seattle's most talked about races.
The polling from the Northwest Progressive Institute shows an uphill battle for progressive candidates. In the race for mayor, Bruce Harrell is leading Lorena Gonzalez 48% to 32%, but 18% are still undecided. The poll of more than 600 likely voters also found Republican Ann Davison in a strong lead in the race for Seattle City Attorney over her opponent, police abolitionist Nicole Thomas Kennedy. So Fox 13 political reporter Brandy Cruz joins us. These are some interesting races.
Interesting races are going to have a major impact not only on Seattle and the region, and I would argue more so the race for Seattle City Attorney, because you have two candidates that are so different from the status quo in Seattle. A Republican, which is unheard of in a general election in Seattle, and then Nicole Thomas Kennedy, who is an abolitionist who has set off alarm bells with a number of troubling tweets, vilifying law enforcement, celebrating criminals. So no matter who is elected mayor, they're going to have to work with whoever the city attorney is to address some of the profound challenges we face, like crime, homelessness, and mental health. So we wondered, what do the mayoral candidates think of, in particular, Nicole Thomas Kennedy, given her past statements? Here is my exchange with mayoral candidate Bruce Harrell. Is Nicole Thomas Kennedy, in your mind, fit for that job?
So, you know, that's a tough question, and that's a Brandy Cruz question.
I can't be the first one who's asked you if you think she's fit.
I tell you what, the voters will make that decision. The voters will make that decision.
Can you work with her if she's in office?
Well, I will have to. I mean, if the voters decide that's the city attorney they choose to work with, then I have to work with her. Like you said, I don't have a choice. But I will tell you what I also will do. I'll make my vision crystal clear. I'm not just thinking about 2022 or 2023. I'm thinking about the future of this city. So if she is elected and her vision is misaligned with my vision, then we'll see what the city wants.
They will be misaligned. Well, we know that, right?
Well, from what I'm reading, but be candid with you, I'm not watching her race as closely as maybe you and others are.
Well, and this is why I'm pressing on it. You know, you're not here to talk about another campaign, but you are here to talk about your vision for the city. And you just talked about how you said officers won't continue to leave. The attrition won't be what it is with SPD, that you're going to create a different environment. Bruce Harrell can do all of that. Then if you've got the Seattle city attorney who says cops are pigs, cops are serial killers, who calls people heroes when they burn a construction trailer or throw an explosive device at a precinct. You could do whatever you want with SPD. Why would an SPD officer stay in the city with a city attorney that says things like that about them?
Well, under the charter, the city attorney has a responsibility. And if it gets to the point of having to look at the definition of the charter and her charter responsibilities, and she is not complying with her charter responsibilities, then we will figure out what needs to be done next.
Like what?
Well, you know, let's talk about the issues.
This is an
because
issue. This is an issue.
The voters, I have faith in our voters.
Bruce doesn't want to commit. He doesn't want to touch that race with a 10-foot pole, and that's because he knows that the race, you've got a Republican, you've got a police abolitionist. He knows that he's not going to be able to please the electorate, but it's clear that he's not a big fan of Nicole Thomas Kennedy, just based on that exchange. One note, he hasn't said, obviously, who he's going to vote for. His opponent, Lorena Gonzalez, however, has said that she is going to vote for Nicole Thomas Kennedy.
I'm going to vote for Nicole Thomas Kennedy. I don't agree with all of her positions. I certainly don't agree with all of her sentiments, but I do think that as someone who identifies herself as a Democrat, I want to be able to support another Democratic woman in the race.
But this is where things get a little bit awkward. I got a chance to chat one-on-one with Lorena Gonzalez about the race for city attorney and had the unfortunate task of informing her that Nicole Thomas Kennedy's campaign manager wrote some pretty nasty things about her on Twitter. This is from her campaign manager, not even a year ago, November 30th. I'm enraged, not at the pigs, because their job is to beat and murder, so it's not a surprise. I'm pissed at the faux-aggressives in Seattle who think the answer to leadership in this city is Lorena Gonzalez, a weak council president who doesn't have to say about what the pigs are doing. Her campaign manager thinks you're a weak council president who doesn't have to say about what police are doing. You care to respond to that?
Well, I obviously have a lot to say about policing and police, and have as somebody who used to sue police departments for a living, including the Seattle Police Department. I'm really proud of the work that I've had an opportunity to do on behalf of my individual clients and on behalf of the people of the city, and that's the vision I want to keep building on. I want to be able to, again, both make sure that we have a accountable, responsible police department that is focused squarely on the public safety work we think they should be responsible for, while standing up alternatives to law enforcement. For many activists, their role is to continue to push us and make sure that we are, not getting stuck in the status quo. I know this because I come from the immigrant rights movement and coalition building, and sometimes people get really, really impassioned about their perspective. So I obviously disagree with the perspective, but I can understand why there is frustration, particularly amongst our Black and brown neighbors, about the ongoing lack of inaction of government as a whole.
Yeah, so a little recap here. Lorena Gonzalez says she's going to vote for Nicole Thomas Kennedy, the abolitionist, then finds out via us that Nicole Thomas Kennedy's campaign manager called her weak and said she's a fake progressive. But her staff says she's still going to vote for her. Even after hearing that, she's still going to vote for Nicole Thomas Kennedy because she, quote, cannot elect a Republican. So she is firm on who she's voting for, and I will give her a little bit of credit because at least she told us who she's voting for. Bruce Harrell has not wanted to delve into that because I think he thinks that, the voting base, either person he says, either he's going to say he's voting for a Republican or a police abolitionist. He doesn't see any benefit to him telling folks who he's voting for.
And I want to circle back to the poll because I think it's interesting who did the poll that shows the more conservative candidates are ahead.
Yeah, Northwest Progressive Institute did this polling, and they found via their polling that progressive candidates really have an uphill battle heading into the election. You should have your ballots by now. Make sure you fill them out. I'll also note that I will have an in-depth story on the mayoral race and some of the issues that are at play, like public safety and the city's relationship with Amazon. That's coming up tomorrow after the game at 10 p.m. on Fox 13.
All right. I have to check and see if the tone of any tweets have changed since you started coverage last week.
Yes,
too.
I believe the tones of the tweets have changed.
All right. Thank you, Brandy. You can see the candidates go head-to-head on this issue and more next week. Join us for the second Seattle mayoral debate between Bruce Harrell and Lorena Gonzalez. The candidates will answer questions from a panel of local journalists, including our own Hannah Kim, who has been known to chase elected leaders down the hall if they won't talk to them. That's next Thursday, October 28th at 7 p.m. on Fox 13+.
Yes, definitely watch and vote this year.